That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. And thanks.
Good morning today. Wednesday, November 17th. And Asher, usually I would start out with you winning over the weekend out of all three of us. But I do have to start with the institutional chaos at Duke. Coach K's grandson arrested for DWI. Their 5-star recruit, probable number 1 pick next year, Paolo Banchero, arrested. I've never seen this before. He was arrested in the back seat for DWI. I don't know what happens, but it's just good to know that Coach K is going out just like he's always been, a rat, snake, filthy motherfucker. So good on him. But yeah,
He's
we had
getting arrested for aiding and abetting.
Yeah, I know, which is like, I didn't know, like, how do you aid and abet someone? It's not like you're in the car with him. It's not like, oh, hey, man, go to the trunk and lay there. It's just weird. But it's what Coach K has always been about. It's always about him. It's always about selfishness. It's always about money. He's going to die a slow, painful death, and I don't really care. I'm going to be excited for it. But obviously we had to move the schedule around. Tom has absolutely no Wi-Fi at school, so we're hoping he sticks with us this time, hopefully. But yeah, Asher,
already off to a rocky start.
Oh, wow. Okay. Asher, big win over the weekend, beat the Chargers, who seem to be, I don't know, but how you feeling, man? How you feeling?
Oh my God. It was a tough watch at first, or no, not at first, in the middle of the game, I'd say. In the beginning, a little bit of a rocky start, but then we started pulling ahead. Justin Jefferson doing his thing. About time that they're like, you know what, doesn't matter. We're just going to throw you the ball. Mike Zimmer literally came out, was like, hey, we're going to throw the ball your way. Just make plays. And he did. It was a beautiful watch. And then all of a sudden the Chargers started pulling up again. I'm like, well, classic Vikings, let's go ahead and blow this lead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it goes. But then we ended up pulling through in the end. And I'll tell you what, it was a sweet victory. Mike Zimmer just needs to come out and say, Clint Kubiak, you fucking suck.
Yeah, it was a big win. Obviously, we'll get into the full game when we get into all the games, but I don't know what's wrong with the Chargers. But yeah, it's just incredible to think that we're watching how good Justin Jefferson is, along with how good Jamar Chase is. The fact that, like, everyone talked about like Devonta Smith and that Alabama receiving core, and they were probably a better core because they were deeper. But I can't remember a college football team that had two like this elite receivers. And I mean, it's no wonder they won the national championship. And it's no wonder Ed Orgeron was the coach, because he can't coach, but he just is a rah-rah guy. So good. Oh,
yeah, it's crazy how good both of those wide receivers are. It's just nuts to me.
First of all, well, I apologize again. Asher, happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, fellas.
How old are you now?
24.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sir.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, hey, you still got a lot of good years ahead of you. Nothing happens until you start turning 27 and 28. Once you're closer to 30 than you are to 25, it gets rough. But yeah. But happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
I usually I don't really check Facebook that much, so I usually would know that, but whatever. Happy birthday.
We good.
All right. So like I said, obviously a lot to talk about. Tom, how are you feeling? I mean, obviously we'll talk about the game in a little bit. The Jets were more impressive than the Browns were.
Don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a tough spot.
They gave up, I think it was like 35-3, and then they put in like the backups in the fourth quarter, and then the Jets put up on 2 touchdowns, and the Bills still put up 10 more points. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the scores like whatever 38-3 or whatever, and I was like, and then I saw a final score. I was like, oh, they must have done all right, but yeah, obviously we'll get more into it. It doesn't look like Mike White is the guy. Once again, Mike White, I told you what you needed to do, and you did it perfectly last week by getting injured on your first drive. Just stay injured, man. Like, Tom, anything on Mike White or that? I mean, if the guy would have played the one game where you guys beat the Bengals or whatever, he had 400 yards. If he just sits for until literally like the regular season starts next year, he will be in a roster for the next 20. He would be in the roster for the next 20 years as a backup, just because of one performance.
Yeah, I know.
But,
it's like the Bills. The Bills' defense is so good. They give up the fewest amount of yards. They give up the fewest amount of points. I believe they give up the fewest amount of air yards specifically. Tough situation. He went 44 with 4 interceptions, so I was really feeling the force today, even though his number 5. I'm surprised he didn't throw another one. But I saw it was announced this morning that Coach Saleh is going with Joe Flacco because he believes, quote, the veteran press against the complex Miami defense will help the guys. And now that they're starting to play QB carousel, I think that this is just going to be another season where they're playing for a pick. I think they've accepted it at this point. I'm surprised it took them this long.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it during the game. I have some interesting questions to point out or things like that. Okay. Let's head to a new segment. I called this. This is college football. This is going to be called Fair Foul. I don't know how much college football you guys watched on Saturday, but obviously Baylor played Oklahoma. Baylor beat Oklahoma. The fans rushed the field like before time went off. Like basically happens at every time now when colleges do that. Like just run the fucking clock out, guys. Jesus. And then he wanted to. So there was like they put like 3 seconds back on the clock. And he ran out and he kicked a field goal, even though they were up by, I think, 10. I mean, just very disrespectful, but I love it. And the answer he gave afterwards it made sense. I mean, one of the big, which is a stupid tiebreaker, but one of the Big 12 tiebreakers is head-to-head points, and he wanted more points to go. So I guess I'll ask you guys fair or foul. Is he kind of being run it up on the score on Oklahoma, or is it just Lincoln Riley needs to shut up and stop being a bitch?
I personally think it's college football, right? It's not your everyday NFL pros. You have millions plus all over the world watching your game. It's college football. These guys, most of them are probably going to hate each other. Everyone's trying to fight for that top spot or an NFL draft pick. Who cares if you run up the score? Honest to God, just if you're playing football to show off your skills at the college level, I say it's fair game.
Yeah, and it's almost like with only the 4-team playoff, like you need style points now. Like Cincinnati needs style points, but I think once you get into once they expand to 12 teams, I think that'll be a little bit different. Tom, any thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's pretty fair. Maybe the reasoning he gave wasn't the best, but I'm sure it's the honest reasoning. And if you are going strictly for points, like I really don't care. Like if you need those 3 points to break a head-to-head tiebreaker, then like good for you. You probably shouldn't be in that situation if you need 3 points. But at the same time, I really don't care. I agree with everything Asher said. The kids are out there playing their hearts out, playing their hardest to win, and I have no problem with them kicking an extra field goal.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm just kind of sick of Oklahoma, but like I said, we have like a 10-minute segment cover college football. I'll keep my college football talk to then, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. But back to the NFL, I messaged both of you. Told you if you have a play of the week to send it to me or tell me what it is. Neither one of you did. So this is my play of the week. It's pretty
That's
big
because
play.
I didn't have a play to watch.
It doesn't have to be from the Browns game or the Jets game. It's just your play of the week. So I don't know. This was probably up there with most people's
I was
play of the
depressed
week.
in sports because of the Jets.
Okay, well, here's the play of the week from Darius Slay.
Melvin Gordon. Straight ahead. Oh, the ball's out. Coming out of there with the football is Darius Slay. Slay on the move to the outside. Blockers in front of him. Slay all by himself down the field.
Davion Taylor comes in. He gets that ball out, I believe, before Gordon hits the ground, and then Darius Slay picks it up, goes the other way. What a play.
That will be the question. Where was Gordon when that ball came loose?
There was a lot of bodies, and so the question is going to be, was he on top of the pile before his knee was able to hit the ground? Again, just a terrific effort by Davion Taylor.
It has been confirmed a touch.
All right, I don't know what happened there. I got lost, had to get out. I don't know why the video kept playing. That was a big play for Darius Slay. There's something else on there that you can't really see in the video. I'll talk to you guys about it later. But yeah, and then we can just get to. Also, I do have to point out and say, I give a lot of credit to those refs for letting that continue to happen, because a lot of times they would blow that dead, and then they would look at it and say, "Oh, well, they recovered the fumble." But it's a big difference between recovering a fumble and recovering a fumble for a touchdown. So, I always give the refs credit when they let them play a little bit, considering now we're getting to the point where I'm not gonna get mad about refs today. I'm not. All right. So I think we did this last. What your first thoughts, your first takeaway, your lessons learned from the NFL Sunday. I'll start with you. What was your big walking away point?
Yeah. Probably that there are very few. Sorry, that was throwing me off. Probably the fact that very select few people know exactly what's going on and are seeing the NFL really clearly, because there were so many games that are just like, what the hell just happened? That just across the last 3 weeks, in all honesty, but specifically this week, like I thought, and I'm not rubbing salt in the wound, Justin, but like I thought that the Browns were going to either just beat the Patriots, but especially just hang together. And we saw the Patriots put up 45 points on a defense that we know is very good, because we've seen it earlier on in the year. You know, there are other games as well. Like the Falcons were hot. They're playing really well. They were putting up a ton of points. They were held to 3 points. They gave up however many points to the Cowboys. I mean, it's just it's very difficult to navigate the NFL setting week in and week out because of all of games like this week.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, this week I will not be betting any NFL games. I have no idea what's going on in the NFL. And how did the football team beat the Bucks? But it's crazy. It's crazy. Asher, what about you?
Exactly.
Be Vikings or anything. So go
no,
ahead.
I mean, I'll save my Vikings talk for when we go through the games and stuff. But there's one game that I have to point out, and it's the 49ers versus the Rams. 31-10. 31-10. 49ers. They seem like they're back. They finally have George Kittle back in there. They had Deebo Samuel and Ayuk on the same on the field at the same time. Their defense came out, showed out. One of their guys, I forgot his name. He was the player of the game, though. He ended up having 2 interceptions and 1 taken back for a pick 6. So my biggest takeaways are the 49ers might be back. They might be back after having so many problems with injuries that they could make maybe a last-minute run. We'll see. They might have made too much damage on themselves early on. But my other thing is the Rams' defense is wildly inconsistent.
Jimmy Ward.
That's his name, yeah.
Where do you go to school? Where do you go to school, Tom?
Oh, you asked me this at one point.
It's a MAC school.
I don't know. It's a MAC school? Ah, God. I don't know. Northern
Illinois. Sorry, Asher, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's just it's the only thing in the world that I'm like better than 90% people at. And I wish it was a tangible skill, but it's not. So
no, that's fair. But yeah, no, the Rams defense, the biggest takeaways is 49ers are starting to look like they're putting something together late into the season, and the Rams defense is wildly inconsistent.
So before I get into mine real quick, I kind of had I don't know if it's a question or just like kind of a hypothetical, maybe like if Kyle Shanahan had like an elite running back, would that offense be better or would it be worse because it's supposed to be played by committee? I feel like he runs an offensive scheme that seems like it's going to be it's by committee. But I mean, what if he had Alvin Kamara? What if he had Jonathan Taylor now? I don't know. What do you guys think about that, Tom?
I think it would depend on who specifically it is and what skill sets they have. Because I feel like he could run the scheme very well with a guy like Kamara who can both pass catch and run as well as block very well. But a guy like Derrick Henry, I'll just take it off the top of my head. I know anyone can be good with Derrick Henry because he's amazing, but let's say it's a version of Derrick Henry that's not quite there yet, where he can't catch the ball very well, and he's a good pass blocker because he's big and he can run well, but he can't do that pass catching. I don't think it would make that much of a difference because I think Shanahan would find a guy like an Elijah Mitchell in the late rounds of the draft or in the free agency or something where he'll bring him in to be that pass catching guy because he needs that in his aspect of the offense. So do I think it would make a difference if he had a top tier running back? Yes, but it would be very specific as to who.
Asher?
I would agree with so many points there. I think the biggest thing with that is I think Kyle Shanahan will benefit so much more if he had a quarterback that could throw for over 200 yards a game.
I don't want to make fun of you for saying that. I'm just saying, like, asking for really good rushing. Oh, and throwing for over 200 yards. It's like when Urban Meyer said his goal for the year was to pass for 250 yards in a game and run for 250 yards in a game, which has only happened. Like, it's a great goal, but it's only happened like 4 times in the NFL history.
No, but to add on to that, my second half of the point there is I think this scheme runs really well with a running back by committee with guys like Elijah Mitchell. You can snag in the later rounds if your running backs can stay healthy. If you have consistent running backs that are not top tier running backs, but you can go out there and change the scheme a little bit. I'm just saying I think they benefit more from having a better throwing quarterback than having an elite running back. I think the scheme works how it is. You just need to have consistent running backs that can stay healthy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know how much he would use a Christian. I mean, he would use Christian McCaffrey, but I feel like he would just split out Christian McCaffrey most of the time as a receiver. I don't know. It was just a thought.
No, it's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
But my lesson from the week, you guys, I mean, obviously covered everything. I mean, like my betting could not be going worse for the NFL. I have absolutely no idea. I tried to stick together a parlay. I have nothing. But I'll go off of that, and I'll kind of focus mine on the Browns, I guess. I just say I learned that it's possible that Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, but he's just not the right guy. Like, I don't want to keep making these comparisons because right now Kirk Cousins is so much better than Baker Mayfield. But it feels like I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like I'm looking at the Vikings. I'm like, they're really good. I don't know if Kirk Cousins can win them a Super Bowl. And I feel like that's just what it is for the Browns. We may be just destined never to win. I don't know. But either way, it's interesting. And I've become, I will say it, I've become more of like, I still like college football more than the NFL, I've become more of an NFL fan this year where I will actually watch other NFL games. Like I never used to watch that. Like I'd watch the Browns and that's it. And I guess that's also probably just because the Browns are really sucking right now and I would like to watch decent football. So that's kind of my takeaway. But all right, unless you guys got anything else, we'll get into the NFL slate. I think we're going to go over all the games. We're going to get through R3 first, get as much in as we can there. And then there's some we don't need to talk about. There's some we really do need to talk about. Looking at you, Dan Campbell. But let's start, Asher. We started the show with you. Vikings beat the Chargers 27-20. My first two thoughts out of this were great win for the Vikings. And my second thing, what is happening to the Chargers? So, Asher, but it's your game. Take us away.
So I don't think to kind of piggyback off one of your points, I do have two other points. But as far as Chargers go, this was a tough matchup for them too. When we're on our game, when the Vikings are on our game, we can beat almost anybody in the league. But that's the thing, though, is that our coaching staff is so inconsistent. We finally had a Vikings type offense that we need to continuously run year in and year out. I mean, Kirk Cousins he's connected 25 out of 37 passes for almost 300 yards and 2 TDs. But at the same time, still getting Dalvin Cook involved with 24, 25 plus touches for 100 plus yards. These numbers are doable week in and week out. So the Chargers just had a bad week to play us, I guess. And my other point is Eric Kendricks is an absolute monster. This guy plays on a totally different level, and the NFL needs to start giving this guy some notice. Because I don't see a lot on his name as far as outside Minnesota Vikings talk. He needs to be there. Like he needs to be on that list somewhere. Eric Kendricks is just a monster out there.
I would say he's either 1B or 1A between him and Fred Warner in the NFL, or he might be 1A. He's very, 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 very good. And he's kind of undersized. That's why people don't like. He's under, like, you look at Warner, and Warner's 6'3", and then you look at Kendricks, he's 6 foot. But yeah, no, he's one of those players on a defense that, like, obviously the Browns haven't had one in a long time other than Myles Garrett. But I'm talking about a linebacker where, like, you're not necessarily following the ball, but you're following the middle linebacker, and it's awesome to do that when you have a good one. Like Roquan Smith is awesome too. But yeah, I agree with Eric Kendricks.
I love Roquan.
Tom, you can head into it because I just have some questions for Asher and everyone really. So I'm kind of doing the producer host thing. So what did you think about the game, Tom?
I didn't watch too much of it. You guys know that like the Chargers are a team away from my team kind of thing. So I do follow them very closely. So I can speak a little bit on to the Chargers' behalf. Staley has done a very similar job as to what Asher was talking about with the Vikings coaching staff. I think that he has done very, very good and very, very poorly, played very poorly late game, a lot of the games this year, which is why they've kind of fallen off the edge of a cliff. It doesn't help that it doesn't seem like he's getting Austin Eckler involved enough. I'm trying to find the specific stats, but I want to say he had roughly only 20 touches. And when Keenan Allen is getting
11 touches.
Hang on, I want to pull up the exact numbers so I know he got 11.
11 touches for 44 yards.
Yeah. And how many? Allen had 8 catches on 11 targets. So that's 22 targets between your two best players. I don't understand. Oh, no, I guess he had Austin Eckler had 14 touches because he had another 3 catches.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
It's still under 30 touches to your two best players when those are really the only guys that you have. Like, I understand they can be game scripted out, but one or the other should get game scripted out and the other one should be getting fed. The fact that both seemingly get scripted out of games is really the problem because they're not running the ball with Eckler, which means they should be throwing it to him or getting Keenan Allen involved. Or if the passing game is not working, they should be feeding Austin Eckler. They just decide not to do either. You know, Herbert didn't have a bad game. He went 20 for 34, 195 yards, the touchdown, and yeah, he had the interception, which was kind of ugly. But again, I think, and actually, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Did that like go past the receiver?
Did what?
The interception that Herbert threw. I'm pretty sure a receiver just like ran past the ball, if I saw it correctly.
So yes, it was tight coverage between Kendricks and the receiver, but the ball was thrown slightly behind him, and Aaron Kendricks just had an absolute amazing grab. So yes, he overran the ball a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that yeah.
This might be like a too hot take, too hot to handle. Brandon Staley started out the season's doing very well. His fourth down stuff, his analytics, like that was all good. But like I said, this may be not true or not a good take, whatever. But I feel like as he's getting down the stretch where teams have so much tape on him that they know what he's going to run in these fourth down situations, that he gets to a point where it's like, hey, dude, it's okay to just punt sometimes. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. For the Vikings, I know Dalvin, like he's had like not a bad injury history, but not a good one either, right?
Yeah, he was injury prone for a few years, but it seems like he's finally starting to get some consistency as far as staying healthy.
Because if I look at the Vikings right now, I'm looking at that team and I'm going, that's the Browns from last year. I'm just hoping Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, because I think one of the big keys for the Vikings, if they are going to contend deep into the year, Dalvin Cook he's going to have a stretch of like 3 or 4 games where he gets a lot of carries, I think. So if he can do that, I like the Vikings in the playoffs. So
I think I have to add to that, even if Dalvin Cook, for some odd reason, has to sit out a game or two, you still have Alexander Mattison, who's an absolute monster.
Yeah, no, I like I said, you guys, it looks like you guys are headed on the same path the Browns were last year.
Yeah, I can see the comparison for sure.
But yeah, I mean, the Browns also. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a homer, like an anti-Browns person, but the Browns also played in like 3 or 4 games last year that was just. It was like rain and snow and wind, and all they did was run the ball. So they got a little bit lucky. So we've lost Tom. I assume he'll come back in once he reconnects his internet. But that's fine. He was going to go next, but I will go next. So the Browns beat the Patriots.
The Patriots beat the Browns.
Yep. Patriots beat the Browns 45-7. Yeah, like kind of like Tom was talking about it, like, as good as the Cincinnati win was a week ago, this loss was like it was worse than how good the win was. I have no idea what Kevin Stefanski is doing, and I think he's gotten a lot of leniency, and he's deserved that. And I definitely don't want to get rid of him or anything. But I don't know if you saw the first drive. The first drive, I think they went like 82 yards in 11 plays, scored a touchdown. And they ran the ball very well with Dearness Johnson. I think Dearness Johnson had 60 yards on that first drive. And then after that, they just stopped running the ball. They just stopped. And I don't know why. And to the Baker thing, like he's injured. I don't know if that's affecting him. I would think it is. But at this point, like, let's just sit you down. I don't know. And then the defense, like, the defense is bad, but I don't understand how they're ever going to get better, considering like they did everything you can think of this summer to bring in good defenders. They brought in a great slot corner in Troy Hill, who during the game obviously did get stretchered off. He had a spinal injury. He's fine, moving his extremities. So good for Troy Hill. He is from Youngstown. But yeah, that was pretty scary. But yeah, they brought in Troy Hill. They brought in probably one of the top 6 safeties in the NFL, and John Johnson, who's been playing horrible this year. And they drafted a corner in the first round, and they brought in Jadeveon Clowney. So the next step for the defense, I think it has to be to fire Joe Woods, because you just fire Joe Woods, and then if the next defensive coordinator comes in and like the defense still sucks, then it's just the Browns are gonna have to rebuild again, because they've put all this money, it seems like, toward this year, and I don't see it happening this year. They play the Lions next week. I almost want the Lions to win. Well, I don't, but I would not be mad if the Lions win. I won't be mad if it's over the Browns. Like I'll be like, hey guys, I went through the 0-16 season. Here you go. This is a gift from us. You don't have to go through. You don't have to be the first team to go 1-16 or 0-17. I mean, so, but yeah, it's just. I mean, in the Patriots, it's just fuck Bill. I hate the Patriots so much, and it's so goddamn stupid and annoying that Mac Jones is probably gonna not probably could very well win Rookie of the Year, and they're like really good, and I just don't know how they're good. They don't have any receivers. Damian Harris like never plays. I don't know. I'll let you guys take it over. Also, golf clap. Jacoby Myers scored his first touchdown in the NFL. Golf clap. So, I don't know if you guys want to talk. Tom, I guess I'll go to you. You know my Browns rants, and there's just not a lot. There's not a lot to take away from this other than, I mean, I know people say it all the time, like bury the tape, but this might be one where you bury the tape. I don't know. Tom?
Yeah, I really don't know what positives can come from this game. I mean, Michael Carter looked great because he's going to be a stud. There's that. The defense can't stop anyone, and I understand it's the Bills, but this is now, I think, the second game that they've given 40 or more points up.
We're talking about the Browns.
What?
Yeah, it's mixed up on it's mixed up on the outline, but you also just you cut out of the podcast, so I went to mine instead of yours.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Technical difficulties.
That's fine. Well then, Tom, if you can hear this, you can start on the Jets and Bills. Okay, never mind.
All right. Well, I have a few things to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the one bright spot that came out of this game for the Browns, because there are so few, is Dearness Johnson. You guys have a plethora of running back ones in your squad. It's ridiculous. I know you guys can recycle through running backs, and these guys put 100 yards on the ground and still have pass catching and receiving. Your running backs are just filthy. I don't know if it's because Baker has an escape guy to go to, if that's just the system they run, but it's kind of ridiculous how your entire offense can run around any running back in the league, and those running backs will do just fine.
Yeah, and that just like Stefanski, like it worked last year. It did, and I still believe the scheme works. I just don't like it. Clearly works, especially when you said like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, like Andy Ernest Johnson, like it works. So I don't understand why he's abandoning the run just so early. It just doesn't make sense, especially if Baker's hurt and he knows he's hurt. Then I don't know.
You got to understand what system Kevin Stefanski came out of.
It's the Vikings one, I know.
Yeah, and we were a run first offense with Dalvin Cook in our system, so it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, it does. I mean,
I would love if Nick Chubb got 25 to 30 carries a game and Baker threw the ball 15 times. That'd be incredible. Obviously, I don't think a running back is durable enough like that. But
I just think the reason Kevin Stefanski might have bailed from the run is because it never seemed to work out in the end for the Vikings, and he wanted to try something new. Between the mix of Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum now in that sense, because Baker did get hurt. But another bright spot that can come out of this is if they do end up giving Lions their first win, they might have to consider talks about changing up your coaching staff, and doing that could bring out some bright spots. Who knows? I've dealt with a fair share of coach changes, and nothing seems to work out. So I don't know. I'm looking at the guys in your squad, and it just doesn't make sense to me how you guys lose 7-45 against New England.
Yeah, so I think I had this. Well, I write down my notes. I was just sending you guys the email, but I write down it just so I remember them. Like, if you looked at the NFL on paper right now, I would say the most talented team on paper is probably the Rams. but the Browns aren't very on paper. The Browns aren't very far behind them as the best team. So I just don't know where it's not working. We'll see this week versus the Lions. Like I said, Joe Woods, if somebody's going to go, it needs to be Joe Woods because, like I said, you just need to find out if the defensive players are we know Myles Garrett is good. Other than that, and we know Denzel Ward is good. But other than that, there's kind of question marks everywhere. So it is what it is. But we'll move on to all right, it's fine. We'll probably be without Tom for the rest of it, but it's
no worries.
So let's move on to the Steelers and Lions. I'll let you start because I'm gonna look up something real quick. I'll just say this. I'm happy there's a tie because there's always one every year, and I'm happy there's a tie.
No, it's just funny. I got a notification earlier, and apparently Najee Harris in overtime did not know that an NFL game can end in a tie. He went through overtime thinking that there would be another overtime if the clock ran trip zeros. I just thought that seemed wild. Nobody seemed to tell him or give him the loop. I'm assuming they probably all thought that he knew that, but it's just funny that they're one of the star players in that squad had no clue that a game could end in a tie. It doesn't make sense to me. I thought it was pretty funny, but
yeah. So you're only 5 years younger, not much younger. But yeah, I don't know if you remember Donovan McNabb's quote about the ties in the playoffs and everything like that.
I do not remember that.
Okay, I'll have to look it up, but I'll get the video or something. But basically, he got in front of everyone, at the press conference. It was like I didn't know you could tie. When we played younger, we never tied. I didn't know there was no ties in college football. But then the worst part is he goes on to say, I don't know I don't know what would happen if this happens in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, that they're going to end in a tie. So I'll look that up. That's a
funny.
It's a good quote. But yeah, who didn't know it was playoffs? Wasn't it Najee Harris?
Najee Harris, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't know there could be an overtime in a game. A tie. My bad.
I feel like nowadays, I give guys leniency, but nowadays you need to know there's a tie. One happens every year, pretty much. It's pretty much out there. So the question I have with this, are you happy if you're Dan Campbell or what? I don't know. I feel like maybe he's not happy in front of the team, but when he goes home, he's like, okay, at least we aren't going to go 0-17. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Dan Campbell doesn't care anymore. I don't think he cares. He put all of his emotions into the first 5 games, losing by barely a scratch. And he just wanted to win so bad. And then to come into this game against the Steelers and have it end in a tie after 2, 3, 4 turnovers in overtime, he's probably just sitting on the sideline what the fuck? Yeah. His kicker missed a field goal to end the game. He could have had his first win. His kicker missed the field goal, and the look on his face that went to the sideline, it didn't. He's like, all right, what? All right. It seemed like he was over it. He was ready to throw the playbook down and get back in the locker room. He has to be at this moment probably sitting at home I don't think I can do anything else. I've given everything to this team, and they somehow shit the bed for me in the end.
And I was talking about the most talented teams on paper a second ago, the Lions just on their roster is not very talented.
No, they got
outside of TJ Hawkinson. Their just roster isn't very good.
Well, DeAndre Swift is running back. Yeah,
he'll be good. And then they have that Ragnow, the young center is good too, but he's hurt for this season, I believe. So yeah, it's weird. They ran the ball a ton, which is I agree with you. Dan Campbell's we're just gonna run it. I'm not gonna let Jared Goff turn the ball over 1,500 times. I still forget that Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick. Not because he's been bad or good, but just because he seems out of the last 10 years, the one number 1 pick that no one really brings up.
Jared Goff has not won a game without Sean McVay. He's not won a single game without Sean McVay at the helm.
Yeah, the only thing that stinks for the Lions is like they're probably going to get the first pick unless they pull out some magical victories here at the end. And there's no good quarterback to go with. Like, so I guess the fans are either going to have to struggle through Goff again for next year, or I don't know. But and I guess I'll ask you this too: if you had the number 1 pick in your Lions, would you take a quarterback, or would you take I don't know whoever you have? I have Thibodeau up there as mine. I don't know.
I would not take a quarterback if I was the Lions, and the reason being is because there aren't any quarterbacks that are going to be worth shit coming out of this draft. In my opinion, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback that's worth the first overall pick going into the next season. So I think your best bet is to either stick with Jared Goff next season, somehow pull a free agency
coup d'etat.
I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. There's guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick in free agency that'll probably do better in the system than Jared Goff is.
Yeah.
I think Jared Goff without Sean McVay belongs in free agency. He belongs in the FA pool. So I think you invest into your defense heavily. I like who you have in Thibodeau. I think he'd be great in that system. If you keep investing in your defense, eventually your offense will come together. You still have young guys in DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson. You still have some playmakers on the offense, but your defense is trash. Your defense is absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I guess the only thing I'll point out is the counterpoint is like the Browns, they focused on defense and they got Myles Garrett, and now it looks like their defense is just Myles Garrett. Which still, I would rather have Myles Garrett than probably a lot of other players in the league. But yeah, I mean, it was good that we got a tie. I still feel bad for Dan Campbell.
An unfair point for you for the Browns there is that you guys just got extremely unlucky, because instead of trying to dip your feet into the free agency pool, I mean, I know you did with Jadeveon Clowney, you end up getting a veteran in there, but you guys have so many young guys that you've taken in the draft that could do well developing around each other, and you guys still somehow don't seem to make it work. Yeah. So you guys are the exception, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean. I wrote an article before the season, and I was like pessimistic. I was like, it's not going to be a letdown like the Freddie Kitchen year, is it? Like I tried to convince myself it was, and then as soon as I published it, I was like, no, that's exactly how it's going to go. And that's exactly how it's gone. Yeah. All right, let's go. Packers, Seattle. Russell Wilson back. Aaron Rodgers back. I guess my big takeaway from this game is the Packers defense might be legitimate, and the roster on Aaron Rodgers might be good enough to win a Super Bowl. What are your thoughts?
I think Aaron Rodgers is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to say the team is absolutely solid. If they can come out and play a decent game, Aaron Rodgers will get you the victory. That's all he's really looking for. As long as the defense can keep the game close, Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and tear it up. So you can have a decent defense on the other side. It doesn't matter. But if they come out and show out like they did against Seattle, the Packers have a very, very, very good chance of doing damage to the other team. So I think Aaron Rodgers has to be happy that his defense came out and poured it on Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. And I think Aaron Rodgers came out happy. He came out with a win in that game.
Yeah, and I think it was his fiance's birthday earlier this week too. I saw it on Yahoo.
I wouldn't go out and say so much as they could. They're probably. I mean, they have a good enough team to win the Super Bowl. I think that with Aaron Rodgers, it's always possible. That's what I would say. Yeah, no,
I will say, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't win another Super Bowl, he is to me, he's the most physically gifted quarterback ever. He is the best at throwing the ball, the best at that kind of stuff. But for a guy like that to have only one Super Bowl when he retires, it's kind of surprising if that is what happens. But yeah, we'll see. The Packers are good. I don't think Aaron Jones is out. I know he left the game. I don't think he's out. Seattle's point is time for Pete Carroll to get out.
What? Sorry.
Time for Pete Carroll to get out in Seattle.
I mean, I guess to have a fresh change, but I think Pete Carroll's the most consistent coach that they've had, in my honest opinion. But yeah, I think it may be time for a fresh start. Who knows? If you do happen to come out and get a fresh start, the only worry I have is a new coach coming in and wanting to build his own system around guys that have been in this system for a while. Yeah. And that could cause a lot of problems. We've seen it in the past, and I don't know what you do if you're heading to Seattle front office. I don't know. Obviously, they have way more experience than I do in that sort of situation. But from what I've seen in the past, it never usually ends out well if you bring in another head coach into a system that's been under Pete Carroll for so long with the same guys.
Yeah, you're right, and I mean, yeah, it just seems it almost seems like with Pete Carroll, exactly what you said. Like I remember in Chicago, when the Bears fired Lovie Smith, I think his last year he went like 10-5 or 10-6 or like 9-7, and it wasn't that bad. But it's just time for a change of pace. Yeah. But you are right in the fact that can mess up a lot of that scheme there. So they would have to make the right hire. But I actually agree with you. I think Pete Carroll could keep coaching for another 10, 15 years and still be pretty good. Absolutely. Yeah. So move on to the Cowboys and the Falcons. I did not see this one coming. The score line, at least. The Cowboys are good. The Cowboys are very, very, very good.
Their offense is so scary. That was going to be one of my takeaways from the week. Their offense is just so daunting. It's hard to come into a game looking at the other side of the field if I'm a defense.
What's their weak point?
Do they have one other than having an off game once in a while?
But it always Dallas. It's someone's going to get injured. It seems like someone on the offensive line will get injured but they are very good. Your boy Diggs had another pick. I don't know how he's sustaining this. I really don't.
Did you see his pick though? Did you see it?
I think so. Maybe not.
The ball was absolutely rocketed past a receiver, and Trayvon Diggs. All he needed to do was stick his hands out, and the ball hit his hands and stopped. It's almost like he just stuck his hands out just to stick his hands out.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think he's the best corner, but there is.
It was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous interception.
The right place at the right time makes a difference. And like I said, I like the scheme they play, and it's good for interceptions. And like I said, I've been wrong. Like I just can't believe he's keeping up this pace because he's
on pace. He's on pace to set the record. I think the record right now stands at like 13 or 14 interceptions in the season.
I think it's 14. I think you're right.
14.
Yeah. But yeah, he's awesome. And then Mike McCarthy's got to start feeling the pressure because it's getting awfully close to Super Bowl or bust for Jerry Jones. I feel like if they don't get it Super Bowl, Mike McCarthy is out the next day.
Yeah, well, you see his mouth salivating at how his offense performed this past week, and Jerry Jones, knowing Jerry Jones, he's going to get greedy and he's going to want to keep this momentum going. He's going to want to keep doing this to teams. And if Mike McCarthy can't pull it off and seems to have like a game he did against the Broncos again, God forbid it happens in the playoffs, yeah, Mike McCarthy's going to be out of a job.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that once we get a little bit to college. Just some coaching, the things in the NFL and college football going around. The Packers are very, very good. And it's the fact that they're good. And I guess he was a fading player at a point, and he doesn't necessarily play a vital position. But they cut Jalen Smith earlier this year, and their defense is still this good. So that's that. On to the Titans and the Saints. I guess I'll let you start. I don't know how the Titans are doing this. After beating the Saints, the Titans have now beat five teams that went to the playoffs last year. They already got through half their schedule with, I think they have an 8-2 record or 6-2, whatever it is, their record. And they had the hardest schedule for the first half. They have the easiest schedule for the second half. So it's your thoughts?
I've never been I've never been more confused in an NFL team than I have been looking at the Titans season. They're 8-2. Derrick Henry's out. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Derrick Henry's leading the team. That's the reason they keep winning." They've won 2 or 3 games now without Derrick Henry in the backfield, and it doesn't make sense because you look at the offensive numbers. Ryan Tannehill only completed 19 times. He only had 19 completed throws for 213 yards. You look at their rushing; they don't have a guy that has more than 30 yards. You look at receiving; there was one guy that touched over 50 plus yards. He had 100 yards in the game. So then I started scrolling down, and I'm like, all right, what happened? Like, what happens? What's going on with their defense? They had like 7 plus pass deflections. They had so many tackles throughout the game. Their defense is just stopping guys. Their defense is starting to look like the real deal. And when you have a defense that good, I don't know what's stopping you at that point.
Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons is a beast. But yeah, it's I don't really have much to give about the Saints. Like, Sean Payton in this whole thing with Taysom Hill has been so weird because even when Drew Brees was there, he was like, no, Taysom's like going to be the incumbent starter. Like, he's going to be the incumbent starter. And now you're having ample opportunities to make him the starter, and you don't. So I honestly am now back to the point where I think that Sean Payton was literally just talking about Taysom Hill just to drive up his price on the free agent market because it seems like this would be a perfect spot to play your guy in. But
absolutely, he's like one of those guys that is dangling a treat in front of your dog. It's like, you're going to get this. It's going to be yours, and then pulls it away to keep the dog interested.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But yeah, the Titans make no sense. Ryan Tannehill, some of the calls he got today, it's starting to make me think he's going to start getting a lot of nice calls, like a Tom Brady kind of thing. But yeah, that offense is good. I think what they need to do is they need to stay healthy. And I don't think Julio Jones would cause this. But I will say with any of these big, like really good receivers, and Julio Jones has always been a quiet guy, so it really doesn't matter much to him. But if he does come back into the team, he makes sure he doesn't mess up the chemistry because everything seems perfect right now for them.
Yeah. I mean, their defense is putting the pedal to the metal, and their offense is putting up enough points to win football games.
And you said it like the Titans have been so interesting this year. It's almost like the last 3 years they've been so interesting because, like, I remember last year when the Browns played, and the Browns beat them like 45-7, and then so I don't know. And they're also, I mean, we might as well just pencil them into the playoffs because there's no way they're not winning that division.
No, yeah, you might as well just hand it over to him at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of that division, Colts, Jags, Colts 23-17. I don't have much on this one other than, is it possible the Colts get the offensive player of the year and the defensive player of the year?
Jonathan Taylor's been a monster.
He's awesome.
That guy's unstoppable.
Yes.
This is fine. It's about time that he finally shows what he can do in this league. It seemed like he had a slow start coming in after being drafted, but this man, he's starting to look like nothing's going to stop him. It's crazy how quickly he can find a hole and run through gaps. He has crazy hands. He's not your biggest running back in the world, but he breaks tackles like it's nothing. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I think he's up there for Offensive Player of the Year awards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean he's got it all as a running back, and then on defense, Darius Leonard will get some votes for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he'll win it, but that defense has been okay, not the greatest, but if you're a Colts fan, you're kind of just sitting back and going, we won, so we're just going to keep trying to win. We're just going to keep winning. So it doesn't really matter how they do it or whatever.
I went into this game, and when I was watching it, I've been wanting to see what offenses do to prepare for Darius Leonard because he's been on the NFL's radar for a while. So, and I haven't really seen any big stats or big crazy plays from him very much. I'm not going to say that he hasn't had them because he's had his fair share of crazy plays. But recently I've been like, all right, so what's going on? So I watched this game specifically to see Darius Leonard. Dude, these offenses are scared of him. They stay away from his side. They don't go to his side. The offense, like, it feels like the quarterbacks are going out there. They spot Darius Leonard and doing anything they can to keep the ball on the other side of the field.
He's very, very good. Like I said, they have two of the best players in the league, and I don't know what it is, but if Carson Wentz can stay healthy and theoretically give them, 2 more good years, that could set them up very well for the long term. Their defense does have to get younger, but in a lot of their positions have to get younger. But it's working for them right now. And if you're a Colts fan, that's all you got to say. I'm winning. We're winning. So,
and Carson Wentz has shown very consistent play,
which is
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, which is inconsistent because he is the most inconsistent player ever, except for this season. So I think he came over to the Colts because of the quarterback coach, or they're close. Whoever it is, that might be his guy. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Carson Wentz is good again. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. On to another one where Tom had nailed it in the beginning. I just have no idea what's going on. Washington football team beat the Bucs 29-18. Unfortunately, Chase Young out with a knee, out for the season.
Yeah.
So who do you think the Bucs' most important player is on the team?
Both defense and offense?
Yeah. Or you could do one of each, really. I don't care.
Well, my initial thought obviously is Tom Brady, because you want to keep him protected, keep him healthy. It doesn't seem like anything's going to stop him, but I'm not going to go Tom Brady because that's the generic answer that everyone's going to give. So I think the most important player on that team is Leonard Fournette. And here's why. He's the most versatile player on that squad, both in the run game and receiving. It's starting to seem like this guy can pretty much do anything on the field, especially when you got receivers like Gronk. I know he's been out for the past couple of weeks. You still got Chris Godwin. You still have Tyler Johnson, who's been showing out, Mike Evans. They have a crazy offense. And when you have a guy like Leonard Fournette in the backfield that can do it all, block, catch, find the gaps, run, you need to keep this guy healthy because he's had his fair share of injuries in the past. If you keep this guy healthy, no defense is going to be able to figure out what the heck they're going to do. On the other side of the field, though, I think Devin White probably.
Yeah,
that man's an absolute monster. This is definitely a guy that needs to start getting more involved and start running this defense more heavily, taking the reins for the defense and showing these guys and uplifting the young guys to come out and play with the tenacity that he does. So I think with those two guys, the Bucs are going to be very good from here on out.
I agree. I like Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette just needed to get out of Jacksonville. That was a hellhole for him. That was a hellhole couple of years in Jacksonville for everybody that was involved there. I think the most important player is Antonio Brown. The Bucs are 5-0 with Antonio Brown, and they are 1-3 without him. Tom Brady loves him. I'm pretty sure he still lives with Tom Brady or on his property. But yeah, I think it's Antonio Brown, but I can go with Leonard Fournette as well. And Devin White, what was his? He had 18 tackles and
he had a ridiculous stat line.
Yeah, just ridiculous. He is so good.
He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses.
Yeah, and that's just where they're going to have a luxury for the next 10 years that the Bucs is. They'll just go straight from Levante David to him.
Yeah.
Chase Young, the injury that sucks. Obviously, everyone.
Sucks.
But at the same time, I don't know what his problem was this year, but he just wasn't very good this year. I don't know. He just wasn't very good this year. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just praying and wishing. But for the first time ever in his career, it kind of looks like Tom Brady's his age is showing. Okay, good. That got a thumbs up. All right, cool.
Sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely have to agree. Sorry, I was looking at something else.
No, you're good.
Yeah, at some points I would definitely say that his age is showing, but I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's going to be slowing down anytime soon.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, he'll probably slow down when he's 60.
Yeah.
We could talk about it every time. There is a feasible thing in my mind that he could maybe be in the NFL till he's about 50, but I don't want to get into that right now. Quick one: Panthers, Cardinals. No Kyler Murray. Seems like he's a very important player. The story out of this one was Cam Newton. Of course, Cam Newton has to do all the weird things and the dressing and the whatever, but he had a good game. The Panthers need to find a quarterback of the future. And then McCaffrey coming back and then going into the tent like almost right away. That sucks a lot. But it was also the first time that I've seen McCaffrey really play this year. Maybe in the past couple of years, I haven't watched him that much either. But he is just so good that if he could just stay healthy, he is so good. And the Cardinals, I don't really know what you take out of this either. Your Cardinals, you got the one win with Colt McCoy. You couldn't really expect two. And I think DeAndre Hopkins was out as well. But I think Cardinals are fine still. But
I mean, yeah, they're 8-2 on the season. They'll be fine. Kyler Murray's coming back. I'm sure he probably just sat out the week because he wanted another rest break or something. He's not going to get his undefeated season, so why not take a few days to rest? You know what I mean? Not a lot to say on the Cardinals other than you can't expect too much out of your backup quarterback, especially with Colt McCoy. I still feel like the stat lines weren't too bad for the Cardinals. I mean, James Conner still got his attempts. He got a touchdown. Christian Kirk, Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, they all got their touches. So the guys were still out there having fun playing. They're 8-2. I'm sure they're just having a good time at this point. So the talk is really more going to be revolved around the Panthers in this game. You got Cam Newton back. It seemed like the players were playing extremely different with Cam Newton on the field versus anybody else. Robbie Anderson.
The only other, sorry, I'm just cutting you off quick. The only other player where I've seen the only other quarterback in the NFL where I've seen guys be excited to play around, Tom Brady. But keep going.
Cam Newton's back in Carolina. These guys are playing different with him on the field. You could obviously tell. I understand that both his touchdowns came with him being in the red zone both times. But he's still bringing life to this team. He's still bringing that confidence and that motivation to keep these guys going. I mean, Robbie Anderson, ghost guy for this entire season, showing out and putting up a touchdown on the board. Love to see it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Panthers can do. I think Cam Newton should be the starter for the next few games.
I think he is going to be the starter this week for sure, I believe. But I mean, it's not even like that. It's if Cam, or if in the future, or Cam this year, but then obviously in the future, if they could just get a little bit of a mobile quarterback that only really throws the ball 15, 20 times a game. I mean, the Panthers have now seen what Chuba Hubbard could do. He's not the best, but he's not the worst option either. Yeah. So, but it was a good win for the Panthers. And the Cardinals, it's just next week. It's whatever kind of. All right. Eagles versus the Broncos. Devonta Smith is actually pretty good.
I saw that headline quite a few times.
You could say whatever you want. I guess the biggest question for me is with the Eagles, how far can you ride Jalen Hurts? Because they have the possible, they'll have, I think they have 3 picks in the draft this year. There's a point where I think they have 3 first-round picks. But there's a point where you got all this talent, but you just need a quarterback and throw it. I don't know. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, I knew Jalen Hurts needed to have some sort of bounce back game. In fantasy wise, he still put up 18 points, which is, you can't expect any more or any less from a guy with his type of play style. But I have to agree. It's really going to come down to how he finishes out the season to see whether or not they want to stick with him at quarterback. And he has a very good chance to show his team with the matchups that he has at the end of the season. I mean, look at the rest of the season schedule here. He's got the New York Giants, New York Jets, Washington, New York Giants, Washington, and then Dallas. If he can't do something to show that he belongs in that system and has earned his right as the starter in the NFL and that quarterback job, this is the best rest of season schedule that you can hope for. So if he can't show out, then they're probably going to have to move on.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I'm not a fan of Jalen Hurts, but I don't hate him. There's a part of me that thinks he could be pretty good in the right scheme, but I just don't know. The Broncos just aren't very good.
No, they're not.
I think we all kind of saw that 2 weeks ago when the bad Browns and the bad version of the Browns and the JV version beat them. So obviously I showed the Darius Slay fumble return for a touchdown. Did you see Teddy Bridgewater's effort on the play?
I did not know.
Okay, so you'll have to look it up afterwards. But let's just say Teddy Bridgewater made a very, very big business decision to not go after him. Then he had to apologize and everything yesterday. I think it's stupid. I got to tell you, Tom Brady is the one who does it right. He throws a pick and he just basically gets off the field, doesn't take part in anything else. Just gets off the field. So I feel like that's what all quarterbacks should do. But I am interested. I don't really like Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's the coach for them. But I do like the Eagles team. If they can find a consistent running game, I don't know why Miles Sanders isn't. I don't know. You guys know more than I do, so I don't know.
So to say that with the whole Teddy Bridgewater making a business decision and Tom Brady just getting off the field, I did want to point out the pick that Eric Kendricks had against the Chargers. Granted, he was down by contact after he picked the ball. Apparently, the guy's foot touched him or whatever. But he was about to take that back for a pick six, and Justin Herbert was the one that tanked him. Justin Herbert is a big guy. He's the one that tanked him and brought him down. Eric Kendricks is not. He's not some guy that should be stopped by any field position player like that. Eric Kendricks is a big man, but Justin Herbert, I'll tell you what, that tackle was nice.
Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, I mean, shit, Herbert had to make an impact on his game at some point somehow. But all right, 2 more games to go. Let's start out with the Chiefs in the Raiders. The Chiefs are once again now in first place in the AFC West. It was fun while it lasted. Although I will say, I do think the Chiefs have problems. I think they have real problems. I think there are more than a couple teams that are probably better than them in the AFC. But they won 41-14. And I don't know, maybe this was just my theme for on Sunday. Just guys, it also kind of looks like Travis Kelce's aging a little bit, which nothing against these guys, but they're just getting older. So, but big win for the Chiefs. The most important thing to note of this game is that Jackson Mahomes, Pat Mahomes' brother, was not in attendance. So.
And he threw for 406 yards and 5 TDs.
I don't want to say that we need to maybe step up our initial action plan to rescue him too soon, because they might still win the Super Bowl as long as Jackson Mahomes ceases to exist. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny when we talked about it, but I really do think he's like, what? Why this, dude? Why? But back to the game. Yeah, I mean. The Raiders, this was always how the Raiders were going to do it. They do it every year. They start great. Derek Carr, MVP talk. Their defense is good. And then they just end they go on a 2-7 run. Seems like it happened the past 20 years. And I will say about the Raiders, I do give them kind of a pass. They've had a lot of shit happen to them over the past 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously, the DUI, it was terrible because someone died from it. But you're still a teammate of that guy, so you had to hear about it all the time. And then obviously John Gruden. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up with Jackson Mahomes, but yeah, Patrick Mahomes absolutely lit up the Raiders. 406 yards, 5 TDs. He's the only the fourth person in NFL history with 3 games of 400 passing yards and 5 TDs ever. In company with Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, and there was one other guy that I can't remember. But yeah, he is one of 4 guys that has 3+ games with 406 pass yards and at least 5 TDs. It's his 5th season. Patrick Mahomes, even though his team might not be doing the greatest, he is still a guy that could put up numbers when it matters the most. Another guy that I really wanted to talk about was Daryl Williams. CEH is coming back, but I feel like Daryl Williams is still going to have a heavy, not a heavy workload, but he's still going to have his fair share of touches in the Chiefs offense. I mean, his stat line, 11 attempts on the ground for 43 yards, but receiving, he had 9 receptions, leading the team in receptions for 101 yards and a TD. Daryl Williams went off this week, and I saw a touchdown. Yeah, I feel like he's still going to have quite a bit of a workload, even with CEH coming back. So fantasy owners out there, Daryl Williams' stock is not dropping just because CEH is coming back. On the other side of the field, Derek Carr, not a terrible stat line, 261 yards with 2 TDs and an interception. Not much on the run game, though. The run game was extremely underwhelming. They had 14 total attempts between Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, and Derek Carr for only 50 yards. The Las Vegas Raiders just did not do very well on offense this game. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And Kenyon Drake is back to being down. So
yep.
That's always good. Also, I will say about the Chiefs, like they obviously have Tyreek Hill, and then Travis Kelce, and I think Mecole Hardman's okay. They could use to get another receiver. I mean, it's going to be pretty tough when teams in the playoffs are going to clamp down on Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and they're going to have to, and then Mecole Hardman's going to have to beat you. So if they could add a receiver, I was surprised they weren't involved in the OBJ inquiry. Which great segue, Justin. San Francisco versus the Raiders, or not the Raiders, Rams.
Yeah.
Great. You talked about earlier. Great win by San Francisco, but I'm laughing at you, Rams, and Matt Stafford. You saw it happen. Matt Stafford probably had nightmares on Sunday night or Monday night about Odell's dad waking up and making a video about him. There was some miscommunication. They threw a pick. But other than that, huge win for San Francisco. After last week saying that, like, maybe we put Kyle Shanahan on too high of a pedestal, like we think he's better than he is, comes out and thoroughly dominates probably the best roster in football.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy Odell Beckham lost, so it's good.
Yeah, he only logged 2 receptions for 18 yards.
Part of the reason for the holdup to sign originally with the Rams was because they wouldn't let him wear his original number. I think he wanted to wear 1 or 13, and I don't know.
So he chose 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was saying it earlier. Great team win by the 49ers. It seems like they're really stepping back into the team they once were. Jimmy Garoppolo, a normal stat line you see from him, 15 completions, 19 attempts, 182 yards, and 2 TDs. Elijah Mitchell, 27 attempts, 91 yards, had a great game on the ground. But the 2 guys that I want to bring up the most is Deebo Samuel. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he had his great few games in the beginning of the season. His targets are starting to go down. And I'm just laughing at those guys now because I was always high on Deebo Samuel, and I will continue to be high on Deebo Samuel. This guy can find gaps, and he can explode through them. This man is a force to be reckoned with, and I feel like he's going to continue to do so. And then the mixture between the George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk situation, the 2 guys that everyone thought was going to continue to blow up, are back. Ayuk is finally back on the field. George Kittle is on the field again. Kittle did log a TD. Brandon Ayuk was somewhat quiet, but I feel like with those 3 guys, Samuel, Kittle, and Ayuk, there's always going to be one guy that's quiet for the game. And this week it was Ayuk. Next week it might be somebody else. So I feel like the 49ers have a good chance of trying to turn the season around.
Yeah. I agree 100% with everything you said. I kind of want to ask this question. It's more of an overarching question after we've gone through this. So we've gone through 3 weeks now, all of us together, and obviously been watching the whole NFL season. There are a lot of good, young, or relatively young wide receivers out there. So it's just, I guess, I don't know if it's a question or a statement that I want you to respond to. Like, who's going to be getting the big money deals? Like, is Deebo Samuel going to get one? Or is DJ Moore going to get one? Like, so I feel like in the past couple of years, it's been like the clear cut who's at the top, and now they're just littered everywhere. You can seem to find a receiver pretty much anywhere. So I guess if you have anything to say about, like, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how we value wide receivers, because to me, if I'm San Francisco, I give Deebo Samuel that money because in that system, Deebo Samuel is DeAndre Hopkins in the Arizona Cardinals system. So like I said, I think it's gonna be weird how they value wide receivers going forward.
So the way I see it right now, take away all your old veterans that are getting paid whatever big money they are right now, such as like D-Hop, and the guys that have been around for a while. Now look at the young pool of wide receivers, and whoever has the top value in the market right now, that value is going to be capped. No receiver is going to get more money than that current wide receiver right now. And that's going to be the average come the next couple of years for the wide receiver market. As far as Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, there's a crazy amount of good young wide receiver talent. And I feel like whoever's getting paid the most right now out of those guys, that's going to be the cap, and it's going to start being the average. I don't see any wide receiver getting paid more than that top guy right now for the next years to come.
I hear you. No, I hear you. I think it's just going to be it's something we haven't seen before, which is interesting. So, did you want to do anything about the college football playoff? Or I do have quickly here. ESPN did their most recent mock draft. Unless you want to go through that, I'll let you choose.
I actually have to get off in 7 minutes, so whichever one's quicker.
Well, then we're just going to get off right now. That's fine. I do college football on Fridays anyways, and probably today later. So that's pretty much it. Interesting weekend. I do think it's just crazy how we just have every weekend it comes into. I have no idea what's going to happen.
This season has been wildly unpredictable.
And like, this isn't even just about the Browns either, but like coming into this week, I never thought that they would lose 45-7. I also not gonna lie, I never thought the Rams would lose 31-10 to San Francisco. So it's been an incredibly interesting year. It's gonna get waterlogged at the top. See who makes the playoffs, because you're gonna come to like week 12 here in a couple of weeks, 12 or 13, and there's gonna be like half the teams in the hunt for the playoffs. So it should be exciting on the stretch. Big win for you. 4-5, right?
Yeah,
4-5. Yeah. Like I said, hopefully they'll come down, have a good rest of the season. But unless you got anything else, obviously I'll be back Friday with the Must Punt podcast with my guys Matt, and then Sunday the Man Fantasy Show with Asher. I assume you'll be there.
Yep.
You got anything else, Asher? If not,
no, that's it. Have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's warm today. It's going to start snowing soon though. So, yeah.